to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. And now, more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange. Now, all this week, our theme is the audacious ones. That's right. Folks in government who had the audacity to stand up for their convictions, regardless of popular opinion, regardless of what everyone else thought. It was up to them. They stood up to the plate because of what they believe in. That's the bottom line. My guest today, some people call her a casualty, but a casualty is when you're fired. She resigned, the first minister in this grand coalition government to resign because she thought her hands were tied. She couldn't do what she wanted to do. And by the way, she was the president's most vocal supporter, not critic, most vocal supporter all the way to the disputed 2007 elections. When she was appointed minister, she felt her hands were tied. And she decided to give up her flag, give up the ministerial salary, give up all the perks because of what she believes in, what she stands for. She still says she wants to be Kenya's next president. That's what we want to talk about, people who stand for what they believe in. My guest today, we are happy to have her back in the bench. Member of Parliament for Gichugu, Honorable Martha Karua.
Thank you. You forgot to say National Chairperson NARC Kenya.
There you go, National Chairperson NARC Kenya. And you want to be next president, don't you?
Yes.
You believe you will be,
and
don't you?
I will be, yes.
I mean, we can have this conversation 3 years from now, and you will tell me, Jeff, I told you so.
I think the next interview will be when I'm on the job. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, Muslim, you never explained to anyone, or it never came out, why you resigned from office. Why did you resign?
I think I said what I needed to say, that I felt my mandate had been withdrawn from me. Because if things I was supposed to advise on, were being done without my knowledge, I felt my mandate had been withdrawn. I didn't have to wait for it to be spelled out. And I felt in those circumstances, I couldn't remain on the job.
Yeah. Did you feel hurt much more because you were one of the most vocal supporters of the president all the way to the disputed election. You were standing by the president day in, day out. And in fact, that title that Martha Karua is the only man in the president's cabinet, you had the guts to stand up all the way. Did you feel let down?
Let down in terms of the way government is supposed to be run, but not let down because I did something previously. I didn't do what I did or talk the way I did because I expected reward. It's because I believed in what I was doing. Therefore, to that extent, I can't say I'm let down. You see, I'm responsible for everything I do. But let down, yes, in being given a job, and then mandate being withdrawn without the courage to tell me there is no more job for you. You see?
Yeah.
Doing things yesterday's way, going back on the ground we had covered in the first Kibaki era on issues of accountability, issues of integrity and ethics, issues of human rights, issues of anti-corruption. That's where I felt let down.
Yeah.
And I said I don't want to be part of this government.
And giving up the flag, giving up the perks of the ministry, that takes a lot of conviction, Mheshimiwa.
Let me tell you, I didn't give it a thought at all. Even if it meant my entire salary, I had to do what I needed to do. Because for me to be able to go on, I have to be at peace with myself. I have to listen to me, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
Let's
switch to the most recent news, Mheshimiwa. The resignation of Deputy Director of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, Dr. Smokin Wanjala. Out of the blue, he came out because of his own convictions. He says, I'm going to resign. Despite what my colleagues are doing, I'm going to resign. What do you think of that move?
I think he did a very good thing, and that is what is called being accountable to the people. He knows he's holding a public job, so it matters to him the way the public feel about him, about the institution. And the public at this time feels that the appointments were done wrongly. And the public is right. The appointments were done wrongly. It was a reappointment, yes, but a reappointment is an appointment according to the dictionary meaning.
Yeah.
It just means appoint again. So for them to be properly reappointed, the president needed to wait for a recommendation from the advisory board, which board would have appraised them, renegotiated the salaries if that needed to be done, and then interviewed them along with others, competitive. We believe in meritocracy these days.
Yeah.
And Parliament needed to approve those recommendations.
Yeah.
So indeed, the appointments were done the wrong way. And in the case of two other assistant directors whose contracts were renewed 2 months earlier, that was Sholei and Mutonyi, the president and the government went the right way. They waited for a recommendation from the board and they came to Parliament for approval. How then can they pretend that it could be different for the other three? I admire what Smokin Wanjala did. Although he said he didn't think the appointment was wrong, there I differ with him, and I think factually the appointment was wrong, but the fact that he felt obliged to respond to public mood, to Parliament, because the Anti-Corruption Authority reports to Parliament. Therefore, Parliament, on behalf of the people, is the institution where they account. He felt obliged to respond to the sentiments. That's the right way to go.
Yeah.
Anything else is an act of impunity. When you ignore public mood and you're a public servant, it's an act of impunity. And the government, its ministers who are supporting this are all guilty of impunity. Yeah.
And Ringera himself, Mheshimiwa, the longer he stays there, the longer he hangs on to this string, the more he looks bad and he makes the president look bad.
I think I said for any public servant who ignores public mood commits an act of impunity. You must remember, Jeff, that the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission prosecutes people for abuse of office. Abuse of office literally means acting in excess of your authority, and deliberately so. The president purported reappointment of Ringera and his two deputies, as far as I'm concerned, was an abuse of office. The fact that Ringera or any of his deputies can accept such an appointment is in itself bad, because how then tomorrow are they going to prosecute people for abuse of office?
Exactly.
It is, to a certain measure, a lack of integrity to hold on to a public job when Parliament, the institution that represents the people, has given a verdict that those appointments are done wrongly.
But at the end of the day, Mheshimiwa, I think I read somewhere that the ruling by the speaker was non-binding. Does that mean the president can ignore it? What does that mean in layman's terms?
Non-binding means the government, the executive feels, what can Parliament do? It's itself an act of impunity. A self-respecting government, a self-respecting executive does not need a law or a gun in their head to act on the recommendations of Parliament. You see?
Yeah.
Parliament may not have the legal sanctions people are expecting, but Parliament has very many ways of shaking the executive. Parliament approves financial estimates. It approves withdrawal of money from the consolidated fund. The government cannot function in several areas without the approval of Parliament. There is separation of powers. But if these institutions are not sensitive to one another, then you can bring the country to a grinding halt. So the question the executive ought to ask themselves, and the president, do you want to pick a fight with Parliament? And especially on an obvious matter like this? That is the question.
Yeah.
If he is right and Parliament is wrong, then it is right that he be firm. But on a matter that is clumsily done and is on the face of it totally wrong and also legally wrong, because can the president explain? Can the executive explain? If they didn't have to come to Parliament, if they didn't need the advisory board, why did they go there for Sholei and for Mutonyi? This is doublespeak. And like I'm saying, you just need, English language is not our mother tongue. Go to the dictionary and find what reappoint means, because the law does not provide for a reappointment. they say it's a gray area. It's a gray area so long as you don't understand the English word reappoint. Once you understand reappoint is the same as it's an appointment for a second or for another time, then you will know that the procedure to reappoint is a procedure to appoint, and you won't talk of any gray area.
Yeah. Should the president cut off his ties now, Mheshimiwa? I mean, if you were him, if you were still in there advising this man, would you tell him, cut off your ties now? It's getting ugly out there.
It wouldn't have happened if I was advising him. And if I was bypassed like it happened, then I would have been out still. Yeah. There is a minimum below which a person ought not to take. And even if it's government affairs, do I want such a thing to my name? That is the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, do you think
I wouldn't defend it.
No.
Whether in or out.
It's not with it.
No.
You think there are more people like you, Mheshimiwa, yourself, Dr. Smoking, people, finally Kenyans are standing up for what they believe in?
I believe there are many. The silent majority are people of goodwill. It's just that those who live by impunity will be louder than the silent majority. But I believe I'm an optimist through and through. I believe that the majority are people of goodwill, and it is the majority that will move this country and bring the changes that are needed.
So that ruling last week by the Speaker, that was a good ruling?
It was a good ruling, yes. Yes.
Bottom line. And the legislature now is standing up to the executive. Finally, we see that happening.
We see that happening, and like I said when I was contributing to the motion of adjournment, Parliament, we too are not above reproach. We must watch our steps. It is now in the public domain that sometimes corruption does enter Parliament, and that corruption does sometimes influence decisions. We must ourselves be a reform institution, shed off that corruption mantle, and ensure that our actions are above board, and that we debate on issues not influenced by partisan consideration. After all, it's called the National Assembly. Although we represent our constituencies, you are brought there to be part of the leadership of the country that shapes the nation. So we are, first and foremost, leaders of this country, national leaders. And we really must reflect that in all our moves.
Yeah.
And I think as Parliament, we have fallen short of that. But this move was a good move. There are many other good things that occur, but those times that corruption does enter have tainted Parliament, and especially this 10th Parliament.
Yeah. You consider the unofficial leader of the unofficial opposition. Do you like that position? Are you feeling yourself you're contributing?
Let me say this. First and foremost, I've said we are all leaders, okay? And we all do our bit. If by doing my bit I'm seeing that as that leader, so be it. But I'll keep doing what I must do. I'll keep serving Kenyans with all my strength, to the best of my ability, with all the passion I can muster, whether that is recognized or not. Yeah.
Excellent. I like that. You just stick to your convictions. Okay, I want to talk more about that. Also, I want to talk about, was there any horse trading going on, Mheshimiwa, in all that thing? Did the MPs give up the mouth for Ringera? Was there that kind of stuff going on?
I heard that talk,
okay.
And I heard it from a government minister. When he was contributing, he alluded to it. And there was that talk all over.
Yeah.
But I am not privy to it. I don't do no trading, and nobody approached me for anything.
Let's talk more about that after the break. But also, what are you doing now to be president? I know you want to be president. I know you have a lot of support out there in the grassroots. A lot of people saying Martha Karua is the change we need. Let's talk about that more after the break. Good grief. Member of Parliament for Gichugu, unofficial leader of the unofficial opposition. She's also the chairperson, not Kenya. She tells me not to forget that. She's on the bench today speaking from her heart. She says she has the strength of convictions to stand by what she feels is right. This is what we mean when we talk about the future of Kenya. Don't even think of going away, because Capital Talk is back in a moment. it's hot today. I tell you, it's only Tuesday. The Member of Parliament for Gichugu Martha Karua, she's also chairperson of North Kenya. First ever minister to resign from this grand coalition government because of what she believes. And she felt her hands were tied. She felt she wasn't getting anywhere, and she decided to go on the outside looking in, and she hasn't regretted a bit of it. It's all about people who are audacious, people with guts. This is what we mean when we talk about the future of Kenya. Those who stand up, or those who can't. So we're talking about that horse trading, and we heard a lot about that. And I think for people to even consider to horse trade the Mao for this appointment, which was doomed from the start, I think that's another form of impunity as well.
It is. I heard of horse trading. I cannot be a witness to that because I'm not an insider to it. I also heard of money changing hands, but I can't be a witness to that either. But I know for a fact that there are times corruption does enter Parliament.
Yeah, that's so unfair, because when we talk about the Mao, first of all, the Mao was supposed to be non-negotiable. Everyone leaves, and then we decide what to do with it. Now, watered-down version of the whole bill.
I don't think it's a watered-down version on a serious basis. The amendments brought in by the Honorable Ekwe Ethuro were merely saying that in dealing with the Mao, in dealing with the settlers, the law will be followed. It cited several sections of the Constitution and several land laws. Even if they were not cited, the fact that the government will follow the law in its actions is presumed. I found the amendments harmless. In actual fact, they were superfluous, but they did give comfort to those who thought that the government may be selective in its application of the law. So actually the amendments passed were not wrong, and I supported them. But what would be wrong is any underhand dealing to bring about.
Yeah, those with tens of thousands of hectares in the Mao, illegally, what we call ill-gotten gains, do they get compensated?
No, if we follow the law, they will not. Because as they stake their claim for compensation, the government can counterclaim for illegal occupation of the Mao. Yeah. They can, especially, let me say X was a land officer, X was a minister, X was a senior civil servant, and used their position, abused their position to get forest land. That is a legitimate counterclaim. The same way we always tell the Attorney General that in all cases related to agro-leasing, they should have not only a defense, but a counterclaim on fraud, on basis that these are fraudulent contracts.
Yeah.
And that way the government can be able to avoid payment. So if the government conducts its business above board and honestly, then the grabbers ought not to be compensated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the government spokesman said that everyone will have been evicted from the Mao by the end of October, which is what, in about a month, a week's time, do you think that is really possible?
End of October or September?
October.
It is possible, because if they were really thinking about this country, about the hardships we are going through because of forest destruction, then the government would look for alternative land, a transition place where everybody can come who has nowhere else to go and be while they sort out. Because if we wait for the government to sort out, compensate and find alternative land for those they will find alternative land, that may take more than a year. We needed the Mao like yesterday. We need to replant and take advantage of the coming rains, knowing that it will take 4 years of hard work for the effects of any tree planting, any reversal to be felt. And that's 4 years of hard work. So we better start now. So it is possible if the government has the will. Remember, this should have been done last year. Those trees should be the size of an average person and they should be coming up. We've lost a year already. We need not lose another year. And when you come to the issue of squatters, squatters are Kenyans. This is their country. If landless people found their way into the Mao, they also should not just be thrown out. As a social justice issue, the government must also resettle them. And that means they also must resettle the IDPs. They must resettle squatters who were previously thrown out of forests and are now living in destitution. The same thing for slum dwellers when we need that land for redevelopment. The same thing for hawkers. The government should never traumatize its people in the name of either conservation or development. Alternatives should be found for those who are destitute, because they too belong to this country. Yeah.
You mentioned IDPs, and this is the biggest sore spot right now, that a year and a half, going on 2 years, we still have IDPs living in plastic tents. The forgotten Kenyans.
It is a shame. And the government blows hot and cold on these issues. The government was prompt to say they'll give 10,000 shillings a token, and they'll give money to build houses. They gave to some, but the whole system was opaque. They were unable to clear everybody. They are now doing it again, and I'm aware that the Ministry of Special Programs has never been given a free hand to do it on its own. Always the Office of the President, the provincial administration come in when there is any money to share. And this lack of clear mandate on the ministry responsible undermines the whole exercise. I hope the government will put its act together, will ensure that there are no IDPs come the El Nino rains. And the government, it was a shame in the budget to say that some of the money to settle IDPs will be the proceeds of the cars that will be sold from the ministries. If we can find money for all other issues, let us find money that is untied for IDPs, and let that money from the sale of cars go to some other venture. We are waiting to see what the government does, and we have been reminding the government. Just before we adjourned, I had asked for a ministerial statement on the plans to settle the IDPs before the El Nino rains. A lot of leaders keep talking about it. I think it's a national shame, it's a disgrace. And what's even more a disgrace is that it appears that only leadership from the Mount Kenya area talks about IDPs. 90% of them have their origin or roots traceable to Mount Kenya. It is a matter that should never leave the lips of the Prime Minister, of the President, of the Vice President, of every leader. It's not an ethnic issue. And we said so when debating the Mau. The Mau was not an ethnic issue. For there to be a tug of war between representatives or members coming from several different communities in the country. It is a national issue. The food farmed in the basin served by the Mau is food consumed by the nation. Just like the tea farmed and the coffee farmed and the flowers in certain areas is also a source of foreign exchange which helps us as a nation to purchase the commodities we need, including food. It is therefore very regrettable that as leaders, we've reduced ourselves to ethnic leaders, where you hear people telling you that it's not the Mau that is causing the degradation in Mount Kenya area. All these issues are intertwined, and we share the same fate as a country. Yeah.
When you travel around the country, Mheshimiwa, and I know you've been doing a lot of that, even though you're not getting as much coverage as you used to, I know you're still traveling around the country. Do you get frustrated when you see the potential of this country just being wasted away by bad leadership?
I do, because the problem we have in Kenya is management, it's governance. And that is why I've put my foot forward and say, I would want to be that team leader to manage Kenya, because being president doesn't mean being a know-it-all. It just means being a team leader, assembling a team and tapping on the national human resource to address the issues that affect us. And we have that in abundance, but we are not using it.
Yeah.
So I get frustrated, but I don't sit back and complain. I'm putting my best foot forward.
And when you see all these alliances being formed, even though people are denying that there are alliances going on, Mheshimiwa, does it frustrate you that we're taking one step forward and we're taking several backwards?
In a way, it is sad, but I don't find it politically frustrating. If that's the path some people see they must follow, let them follow it. It's a free country. But that will not deter me from following the path I have chosen. I am looking for the ordinary Kenyan, for people of goodwill to team up with, so that we may reverse bad governance in Kenya. We may say goodbye to the days of bad management, and we may approach issues differently in our country.
You're not going to give up?
Oh, that's not in my vocabulary. I'll keep going. I know it's doable,
Yes.
and it's going to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you see that Ocampo now is planning, we're talking about the special tribunal, he's planning now to implement his team on the ground because Kenya will not meet the goals set before the end of September. What does that say? I mean, will we ever get those ringleaders of the post-election violence? Will they ever be arrested? Will they ever be prosecuted? Will that chapter ever close?
We live in the hope that in the absence of any concrete steps by the government, the international community will act. The ICC will act. But that is a confirmation that we are on the brink of being a failed state. If we cannot, for sure, summon enough moral courage, enough commitment to ensure that there is a local tribunal to try the perpetrators of post-election violence, then what moral authority do we have to say that there is a government managing the country? We live in hope because the future of this country lies in a successful prosecution of the perpetrators of post-election violence so that we may stop this cycle of violence that started in the early 90s. The fighting impunity and dealing with impunity in Kenya, whether it's to do with violence, with corruption, with all other crimes, is the key to our nationhood remaining together, to us remaining a nation, to us being able to forge ahead out of our problems. Yeah. And that is where the issue of post-election violence, because security is everything, becomes paramount. Yeah.
Is there hope, at the end of the day, because goodness, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot collectively all the time. Is there hope? And I ask you whether you get frustrated sometimes, but you must wake up sometimes and say, where are we going as a nation? Where did we go wrong?
Yes, and that's where now you feel as an individual, you must redouble your effort. We cannot afford to fail. A country is not like a suit, which you can change and wear another one tomorrow. We have nowhere else except dear Kenya. Therefore, even when we feel like we are weakening, like we are losing hope, we must summon the remaining energy, the remaining effort in us to make sure that we push the things that we must do through. That is why I will support the bill brought by Honorable Imanyara. That is why I will support all efforts that will help us break this impunity. And if it means Ocampo coming, let him come. Because if we can't do it ourselves, we definitely need help.
Yeah. For Martha Karua herself, the silent majority that you talk about who really want change, who want a better Kenya, there's one thing you were to tell them, that Martha Karua is different from these people because of ABC. What would it be?
I will tell them, one, that I will respond to their needs. And that yes, I'm coming in this, not for power, not for money, but for the work. It is the work I'm looking for to ensure that we change Kenya. Because leadership in Kenya has been a stepping stone to wealth, especially illegal gotten wealth. We have killed hard work. We have killed meritocracy. We have killed the values that this society believed in. I would want people, when they hear Martha Karua, to just identify me with the rule of law. And where there is rule of law, impunity does not reign. Where is the rule of law, there will be zero tolerance to corruption. Where is the rule of law, leadership does not break the same laws that they're supposed to protect. Where there is rule of law, a country is secure, healthy, and wealthy.
Yeah. Bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
Next interview, State House.
That's what we agreed.
Thank you
I'll
so
welcome
much.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well done. Keep fighting. Good grief. Honorable Member of Parliament for Gichugu, also National Chairperson of North Kenya, Martha Karua. If this is not what the future of Kenya is supposed to be, then I don't know what is. Speaking from the heart. She's got the conviction. She stands by what she believes in. She wants to change the country, not for herself. Kenya, for you and I. Country's bigger than any one of us. Martha Karua wants to be a team leader. She's proved it by resigning because of what she stood for. That's audacious to me. That's gutsy. This is the audacity of hope right here, like the book that man wrote. What a guest, what a show. What a week it's turning out to be in Capital Talk. You cannot find these kinds of guests anywhere else. Right here on the award-winning station, A24. As always, we are all Kenyans.
Say that.
All the time.
Thank you so much. Well done.
Capital Talk is recorded at the Fairview Hotel, the country hotel in town.